Good evening and welcome to the Monday, July 28th meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission. We'll start with a roll call. Chair Lisa Hanson, present. Vice Chair Jacob Miller.
Present.
Alder Jim Hutchinson.
Present.
Commissioner Darius Daniels.
Present.
Commissioner Ken Ravinsky.
Present.
Commissioner Emma Fullwilder.
Present.
And Commissioner Kelsey Lutzow is excused. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Approval of the agenda for the Monday, July 28th, 2025 meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ravinsky, second by Vice Chair Miller. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Moving on to approval of minutes. Approval of the minutes from the Monday, July 7th, 2025 meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Fullwilder, second by Commissioner Ravinsky. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, and then moving on to regular business, and item number 1 is a public hearing. And this public hearing has been properly posted and public notification has been published in the Green Bay Press Times. The Plan Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda items. We invite your comments and ask that you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, whether you favor, oppose, or are only providing information in this matter, and your comments or concerns. We ask that you confine your testimony to facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. City staff will provide a presentation during the public hearings, and questions raised by the public may be asked, but they will not be answered by staff until the upcoming actionable item. You must be recognized by the Plan Commission in order to speak, and your comments must be addressed to the chairperson. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and we will now open the public hearing on item number 1. Public hearing on a request for a conditional use permit for the purpose of creating single-family attached dwelling townhouses within the R1 low-density residential zoning district at 115 South Van Buren Street, submitted by David Erickson of NeighborWorks Green Bay Redevelopment Authority property owner.
Thank you, Chair. So the property that you're looking at is a 13,982 square foot vacant piece of property on South Van Buren. You're looking east-northeast, with Walnut being along the left-hand side of the image. So the property has a future land use designation of MAROH, which is medium intensity retail, office, and housing. The projected use here does meet what that classification is. Next up is the zoning. This zoning for this parcel is an R1 low density residential. To the north, you're going to see NC neighborhood commercial. Back up to the northwest, you'll see office residential. Within R1, if you are looking to do townhomes, you have to get a conditional use permit for it. To note, the properties off to the northwest and north and then the east in NC and OR. This would be a permitted use. So next slide, please. What you're seeing here is a proposed site plan for the property. We're 3 townhomes facing towards South Van Buren Street with parking in the rear, coming off of an alleyway, and allowing for some open space both in the front yard and the backyard of the property. So when reviewing this overall site, we are looking at a few different actions. First, seeing if this meets in with 44-83 subject to meeting business meet the 7 standards for a CUP, which for the most part this conceptual plan does meet that. Additionally, we're looking if this meets zoning requirements within Chapter 44 for bulk requirements for a single within the R1 district, and it does. And then additionally, we are also looking at, does this meet the standards that are set forth in the land use development, which is in 44-1580. There's one part of this that is a little bit off compared to that code. So in the next slide, you're going to see the elevations for this property. So they are asking to do within each one of these townhomes 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, 2-stall attached garage, tandem park behind it. Meets just about every requirement that's out there. One of the things to note here, though, is you have 3 individual entrances going off to Van Buren, and within section 44-1580 sub D, it's noted that when it comes to townhome development in the R1 or R2 districts, that the townhome shall reflect the general architectural style of the area. One of those in particular be detailing when it comes to architecture and front door openings. So in general, this building fits in with the rest of the neighborhood as far as scale and design. One thing that is a little bit off in this proposal is, if you go to the next slide, please. These are some views when you go up and down the street, and you're going to notice a pattern that when it comes to front entries, there's an awning or there's some sort of front porch that's associated. If you go back to this drawing, those aren't there. So that is one difference compared to the rest of the overall neighborhood. But overall, it meets just about the last one of the bits of code. Older profit, the Navigator Neighborhood Association, as well as adjacent property owners within 200 feet were notified of this request. And we received a few calls that were just more questions about the overall use, but did not receive any sort of yes or no as to the overall project itself.
All right, thank you. So now with this public hearing, we're looking to hear from anyone who'd like to speak on this item. Just come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, my name's Rob Miller. I'm from the Navarino neighborhood. I live within 200 feet of the property, and I am strongly supportive of this. We've been waiting at least 9 years for this development. This is just, and I realize this should be directed at the redevelopment authority, but they refuse to put me on the agenda, which is part of a big problem, I think, with this city, is that citizens cannot appear before committees, and I'm asking you to look at your practice here. But I'm interested in making sure that the grass is cut. We've had grass up to 5.5 feet high under the Schmidt administration. It was a foot high at the beginning of spring this year. I want the sidewalk shoveled. All of this, I suppose, might be just ancillary to the consideration of the zoning, but it's very important to us to have some building done there, and if it's not absolutely consistent with the architecture, so be it. We're getting a lot of other benefits, specifically other residents that are caring for the property, that are going to join the neighborhood association, that are going to participate with us. Right now, Van Buren Street is virtually a parking lot. During the day, Northwest Journey parks its cars here. They're not going to be able to do that. I've warned the neighborhood housing that they have to change that to get their construction equipment there. So there are an abundance of benefits to Navarino and to the residents here. And one other procedural note, I think it would be very easy for the Planning Commission to find out whether development is going to be owner-occupied or rented out. It took me a call to neighborhood housing, actually 3 or 4 calls, and I found out that it's going to be sold to owner-occupants. That's a really important aspect to the neighbors. We've had similar developments by neighborhood housing. They have been outstanding. We've had a similar development on South Jackson. Garrett Bader did townhouses on Van Buren. Basically, there are 0 problems with the residents in these owner-occupied townhouses, and that is a great benefit to the neighborhood. So with that, I will close out, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone have. Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item? Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 2. Consideration with possible action on a request for a conditional use permit for the purpose of creating single-family attached dwelling townhouses within the R1 low-density residential zoning district at 115 South Van Buren Street, submitted by David Erickson of NeighborWorks Green Bay Redevelopment Authority property owner.
Sure.
Oh my goodness, I'm sorry.
Just to follow up on the comment from the public, staff did not inquire about if this was a owner occupied or a rental, we're looking through the lens of, does this use fit the zoning code? And it does. So staff is recommending approval of the request. The two items that we are requesting to have subject to though is that there be either an awning or a covered porch to be included with the design of the front entryways of the individual entrances, giving the flexibility to NeighborWorks as to how they want to design that, but to add something to the effect. And then secondly, an individual sidewalk connecting the front entryway back to the public sidewalk. Steph, if you go back to the site plan, there's just this, I think it's just a interpretation here as far as, you can see on the front, there's not a sidewalk going right back to the, from the house itself back to the actual right-of-way. I think it's just a drawing interpretation here, but we just wanted to make certain that that was going to be the case, that the individual sidewalks will lead from the houses to the sidewalk.
So just to clarify, a small awning over the entry would suffice.
Right, we're giving leeway and flexibility of that as far as I'm not trying to put in some sort of, but there are small awnings that exist in other houses.
The picture that you showed, there was one that had just a small, like, curved awning over the front door, so, okay. That was my question, too. All right.
On the sidewalk question?
Yeah.
Are you requesting a single sidewalk going to the three, or three individual sidewalks going to each of the three?
This is also giving them flexibility as far as how they want to do it. They, in theory, you go back stuff. You have the three, you could make a north-south sidewalk and then have one walkway going back to
But it's
the
not.
street, but
Okay.
it's only 15 feet or so. It's not that much. But we're just noting walkway that would lead from the sidewalk back to individual
Okay.
entries.
Thank you, so you're not getting specific on that?
Nope.
Okay.
And this property, wasn't it like an abandoned apartment building for a long time before it got torn down?
Yeah, this was about a 3 or
Yes.
4-story building that was.
Yeah.
uh,
Scary.
It's very problematic.
Yeah, the actual, as far as when it comes to bulk requirements for this site, this townhouse fits it very well.
Right, it's bigger probably than,
I just want to, for the record, probably about 4 years ago, I did have a planning option on this property for a former business that I had. I no longer have any financial ties to the property.
Move to approve of the requested recommendations.
Second.
got a motion by Vice Chair Miller and a second by Commissioner Rubinski. Any further discussion amongst the commission? Hearing none, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then that will move forward to City Council, what is it?
August 5th.
August 5th, all right. All right. Moving on then to item number 3, which is a public hearing. And this public hearing on a request to amend zoning ordinance 03-24, a planned unit development to permit multiple family residential development on the east side of Hinkle Street at 09th Street. Petition submitted by GB Real Estate Investments LLC on behalf of property owner GB HMC West Mason LLC.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is going to look very familiar to all of you since you've seen it not too long ago in '24. So this is the Southwest Woods planned unit development. So it's the west side of the city, just west of Highway. As you can see on the map, Hinkle Street is not there right now, but Hinkle Street will extend down through the site and then connect to Hobart Drive. So this was approved, again, in 2024. There was one amendment for some commercial driveway locations at the end of 2024. Yeah. So this is the site, how it actually looks today. The star is the acreage that we're be talking about. So this, if you can go back, Steph, please. So this site, you can see on the west side of Hinkle, is going to have a set of townhomes, a set of single-family homes, and then on the north, right along the frontage road, would be commercial, which it is commercial. And then on the east, which is a large area, there was about a 4.5 acre piece up at the north end, just south of the Chili's lot, that was developable. The rest of that site is a lot of wetlands, floodplains, and that is to be dedicated to the public for park property. That's kind of a history of that planned unit development. Okay, if you can go down to the next one. So this is just how it looks today. You can see the park to the south, the school, which will be discontinued, is down there as well. Basically, the surrounding land uses. Why don't you go to the next one? Yeah. So this is the future land use map. You can see it shows a difference of commercial and high-intensity retail office housing for this whole site. Again, that planned development is over the top of it. Zoning. Zoning is a planned unit development. You can see it outlined in black, all those individual parcels, but basically to the south is park space, to the west is low-density residential, and commercial to the north and along the highway. So, as I had said, the PUD was amended a couple times, but in that PUD, and I apologize in your staff report, I referenced incorrect, I did 2824, so 324. Not that matters. In that original PUD, that location, which is highlighted in the orange, I guess in orange, had text written that basically stated future development area is approximately 4.5 acres, east side of Hinkle Street, directly across from the single-family subdivision. It's currently unknown what type of development will be proposed, so it shall be treated as low-density detached single subdivision. However, it's expected the PUD will need to be amended to facilitate future development. And that's where we are today. So what the petitioner is looking to do, the applicant is looking to do, is locate 68 apartment units on that site. It'd be 2 30-unit buildings, and you can see those located on the south, and 1 8-unit building kind of fronting future Hinkle Street, again, all across from Southwest by Court, and then the accessory parking and some garage structures. The design of the buildings are yet to be determined. These are concept designs, and that is a concept site plan. So the way the PUD was written, it's not referencing these plans directly. It's giving the standards, and then you can fit, your development into those standards. But this is the concept plan that the petitioner has been looking at developing. So in the PUD, we are recommending no greater than 70 dwelling units per acre for the site. But we're also including an option for townhomes, if that is something that shows to be fruitful as he's going through his due diligence. Some of the changes from regular code that would be considered exceptions. One big thing with this whole PUD and the design was to have a street-oriented neighborhood. So a new neighborhood that interacts with Hinkle, so not campus style where you abandon the street presence. All the townhomes across the street would be directly fronting. The commercial has 0 setbacks. And so this development as well is going to have to follow that same concept. So the front yard setback would be reduced from the required 15 to 12. 12 only because that's a utility easement, you can't get any closer. Any surface parking would have to be behind the structures. And any surface parking that fronts the street, like on this concept plan in between the 2 buildings, would have to include a low-level treatment that matches the commercial properties to the north. Those are not yet designed. The street isn't in yet. But think Main Street and the wrought iron gated wall, or heavy hedgerow, or something to block that parking and also provide a street presence right up to the right-of-way. So as you're walking down the sidewalk, it's not just a blank area. Since this property, and if you can go back to any of the other ones, maybe another one.
Any of them, but not.
Yeah, not that one. So as you can see, to the north is Chili's, and there's a retail center to the south of Chili's. So the north property line is all the backyards of commercial properties. The south is the creek, a named creek that goes through there, as well as all future park space. So, and that's seen to the east. So as far as the buffer setback requirements that are typical when multifamily is being developed, those wouldn't be necessary. Increase setbacks to 25 feet. This PUD is reducing them to 10 for the north and south and 15 to the east, and not require that buffer. Buffers are fencing, vegetation, and a large gap. Basically what they're trying to do is really buffer the lower density stuff from the higher. In this case, we don't have that scenario, so those are built-in exceptions. Accessory buildings, however, and you can go back to the, accessory buildings are one thing we don't want to see out the street. A blank wall for a garage or something like that. So there'll be a 100-foot setback for any accessory buildings or refuse enclosures. And they also can't be between any building and a street if that building ends up becoming set way back. As I had mentioned before, the building designs are not finalized. It's nice that the petitioner's given us a concept so you can kind of see what they look like. But we had to draft this PUD to meet that goal of an interacting development to the street. So we developed a set of standards, architectural standards in this PUD that weren't there prior. And I'll summarize them real quick. Any structure facade that fronts or is visible from the right-of-way should have a functional and operational front entrance. So no sides of buildings on the street or back of buildings on the street. It has to be the front. Ground level patios are not permitted on any facade facing the public right-of-way. Porches, yes. Stoops, yes. Patios, no. One thing you'll notice with that building design on the bottom, it's a typical building you'll see, usually a campus-style building. One side is garage doors, the other side is patio doors. So in that case, neither of those sides would be allowed to front the street. In his scenario, it's a side load. And you can see the side load of the building has an entrance and a bunch of articulation. So that is on there. Facades facing visible from the public right-of-way should have a minimum of at least 20% of their area dedicated to windows and doors. Again, no blank walls. No greater than 40 feet of wall area without some type of articulation, whether that's a door, a window, a vertical material change, a roof line change, something to give it that street presence. And then exterior building facade shall be a minimum of 70% brick, cementitious panels, architectural metal, wood or wood composite, doors and windows. And that would be for the sides that are fronting the street. Again, trying to get a little bit higher quality and good interaction with the new neighborhood. Drive access would only be allowed one. That would have to be directly across from Southwest Vine Court to kind of make a four-way intersection at what will be a three-way intersection. But a few of the other things that we are putting in the PUD is that sidewalks are only on one side of the street on Hinkle. So any building that fronts the street, the sidewalk is going to have to continue, public sidewalk will have to continue to those buildings itself. Internal circulation is going to have to be taken care of so you can get from building A to building B on a walk and not walk through a parking lot. And then the assumption is that there will be a trail system built into the park to the south. Once that's built, this development would have to connect to that trail system so the residents here could have easy, quick access to the trail. All that is included in the PUD. Everything else, dimensional regulations such as lot area, residential density, building heights, impervious surface coverages, that would all sit just as an R3 multifamily property would in the code itself. Staff is pretty self-assured that the regulations will maintain that intent of the Southwest Woods neighborhood, but we're also confident in the developer, and you probably know him, or his development group. They designed this neighborhood themselves. So we are very confident that they're going to pull the objectives that were put in place at the time. Very positive track record in the community. Alderperson Eck, MacArthur Heights Neighborhood Association of property owners within a little over 400 feet were notified. The petitioner did meet with MacArthur Heights Neighborhood Association just last week on the 23rd, but I believe it was a large storm and there was not a lot of people in attendance. The alder is here and she was there. As the drafting of this report, we have not received any comments on this.
All right. So now with this public hearing, we're looking to hear from anyone who'd like to speak on this item. Is there anyone wishing to speak?
I'll speak. Robert Defnett, 1279 Oregon Street, Green Bay. Is it possible to go back to that slide that had the layout of the...
This is actually the public hearing, so
Okay.
it's more of a,
That's
just
fine.
your thoughts and concerns.
That's fine. I have no opposition to this plan in general. The only, I guess, thing I'll bring up is when all this area was proposed to be redeveloped, part of the implication anyway was that something was going to be done about the West Mason frontage road. That whole thing about people turning immediately off of West Mason and then having to turn onto the frontage road. And one, I guess, thing, I don't know if this has been looked at or not, putting the access road or the frontage road or whatever you want to call it, a road south of the properties, the Chili's property, the Los Bandidos property, all those properties, and leading down to Aurora Baycare, having the street be south of those properties instead of on the north side of the properties. That way that whole cluster, I'll call it, would be eliminated. That intersection up there at West Mason in the frontage road has been an issue for years, in my opinion. If there's anything that can be done to alleviate that, that would be great.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item?
Good evening, everyone. Garrett Bader, 300 North Van Buren Street. I'll address that item very briefly, and otherwise everything else David said is pretty much all I need to say. That item has been addressed. There are plans that have been approved. There are traffic restricted movements going into place, but that's not part of this issue.
Hi. We're talking here.
Yeah,
Sure.
So, thank you for hearing this again tonight. The only item I would request maybe as a revision to what David had been mentioned was a modification in section 4D to 50% instead of 70%. So the board and batten vinyl up-down, if you will, siding is not the same, treated as the horizontal. That's about it. If there's any other questions, happy to answer.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 4, consideration with possible action on a request to amend zoning ordinance 03-24, a planned unit development to permit multiple family residential development on the east side of Hinkle Street at 09th Street, parcel 6H-1089, petition submitted by GB Real Estate Investments LLC on behalf of property owner GB HMC West Mason LLC.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. And Steph, can you jump up to the one that has both this one more? All right, I just wanted, because we had the comment at the public hearing, I did want to point out that during that first plan development and some of the subdivision regulation actions that went through council, the intersection of Hinkle and the West Mason frontage road has been redesigned. I won't go into all the different movements that are going there, but it is significantly changing from existing. And went through Planning Commission, well, they didn't go through Planning Commission, went through INS and council. They feel it is going to be an improvement to the circulation in the area, but obviously that won't happen until it's rebuilt and Hinkle comes back through. But to hopefully answer the question is, yes, there is changes on the way for the roadway. And then also, you know, once that roadway goes in, the other developments can start happening. They've been platted, so those lots exist, it's just you can't build on until the road is there. So I just wanted to add that, and then I can just run over to the recommendation. We are recommending approval of the PUD as drafted.
That access road is awful. Because I just went to that hot pot restaurant over there. I didn't realize that you can't turn off of Backerland anymore.
Yeah,
That's been closed
close
probably
that.
for a while, but I don't go over there.
Yeah, they closed that last year, the county, and
Do you know how difficult it is if you miss that turn? You go like, how,
You go all the way down.
you gotta go over and then there's no U-turn, so that,
It was
that.
the most dangerous intersection in the county, so that's why.
Yes.
Oh, is it really?
What an honor.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't doubt it, it's awful.
yeah. Well, and there was actually an approval of Isbell to continue down through to the frontage road as well. Whether that happens or when that happens, I don't know, but that was also approved.
I'd be excited to see something different, because, yeah, not that that has to do with us, but. All right.
Question on It was stated that sidewalk would run down one side of the road. Do we know which side yet?
We did on the concept plans. I am not really privy to the bidding plans for the street itself, but I believe it runs along the east side of the road from the south all the way up until it gets to that intersection right there, and then it crosses over to the west side and it continues up to the intersection.
Okay, the reason I ask is it's very difficult to get a crosswalk in if you don't have sidewalks on both sides. So is that going to be taken into account where we identify a crosswalk, or?
Yep, well, you would have a crosswalk at that intersection, and again, it's one of the reasons why we're running the sidewalk up past it to the developments. Right.
Okay, so there'll be a sidewalk on both sides.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay, that was my question right there.
And I believe even in the discussions, which again is more of a public works item, there was talk about doing certain things in the right of way to facilitate pedestrian movements easier, whether that's a beacon or a raised table or something.
Okay, thank you.
Exterior materials, this is section D, whatever we're on it. Exterior building facades framed in the right of way should be a minimum of 70% of the following materials, and other facades 50%. It sounds like Garrett just wants 50% across the board. I guess I don't care that much, but obviously you put it in there for a reason to have 70, just because it's facing the road.
Correct, yeah.
I don't have an opinion, but if anybody else cares one way or another, I can be sworn.
I mean, I think our fear was mainly that we just don't know what materials or what design is going to be there at the end of the day. So we wanted to make sure it was higher quality when you're fronting the road. Because this will become a collector and a main corridor with all new development along it. So this should be a gem for the city, and we just want to keep it that way.
Okay, that's fair.
Do you have any further questions for staff?
I'm just thinking more about the siding.
And I guess I can add that there is nowhere else in this PUD that there's any architectural control. So, I'll just throw it in. This is.
That we are asking for control on this, but other ones we have not.
Yes, may have been an oversight when we drafted the first one, but
Oh, okay. So this is right.
I think so. Or
This is better than the last one, as far as the procedure that we went through.
for the design control.
Right.
yes.
It does give options within it. I mean, it's not just dictating exactly what material we use, it does give multiple options to choose from. So I'm comfortable with it being flexible enough to choose from one or the other one, especially if cost is concerned, you could find something in there I think that would fit, that's still allowed, so I'm okay with it. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's two little outs in here as well. One is other materials as deemed appropriate by the zoning administrator. So that would be if a new material came out and we didn't necessarily know, or it was a combo that was more architecturally pleasing. And then also, we did require 20% to be windows and doors. And that is an acceptable material. So you're at 50 right there.
Okay.
Once you
To
take
more
out the
glass
20
if
for the
you
doors.
wanted.
Yeah.
Motion to approve as recommended. As what the condition was.
Just that, the draft.
Okay, just strategy, okay. Move to approve.
So we've got a motion by Vice Chair Miller and a second by Commissioner Fullwilder. Do we have any further discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then that will move forward to City Council for August 5th. Moving on to item number 5, which is a public hearing. Public hearing on a request for a planned unit development to permit the development of a 146 single-family lot subdivision, including a clubhouse and amenity area at 2892 Nicolay Drive, 2958 Nicolay Drive, and 0 Durham Road, submitted by Jason Mraz of Apple Tree on behalf of Terra Nullius LLC property owner.
Thank you, Chair. Just one second. All right, thank you. This application is for a PUD over a currently vacant green space on the city's northeast side. So this is along Nicolay Drive, Church Road here, the Red Smith neighborhood immediately to the south and to the east. Looking at the future land use, pretty much everything around it is single family in nature, including the zoning. So we're looking at a very single family homogeneous zoning area. A lot of the lots are about the same size. They have very similar layouts. So looking at a very cohesive neighborhood up in the Red Smith area. For this project, they are looking at consolidating 3 lots here. So you can see these faint blue lines. Those are 3 separate lots. The one that is up here closest to church does have a little adjacent piece here. That would be divided off during our land division process and developed separately, so that's not part of the PUD request, but it is technically under that parcel number right now. So legally, it's linked in here, but the PUD is written just for this main parcel area. So looking at this development, we don't typically see a lot of PUDs for single-family development. So the reasoning behind this was because they're trying to do a little bit of a different product, which includes a lot more connectivity, green space, and then also some smaller lots to get more of like a community-based feel in this particular development. So looking here, we're looking at about 50 acres in total. Again, promoting the 146 single-family detached homes. So no duplexes, no townhouses, no multi, just single-family. It's pretty low on our unit per acre count. We're typically looking at 4 to 8 units per acre in our R1 district. This is 2.9. But again, looking at some of the spaces that they've given up for green space, for stormwater management, and then the proposal of a clubhouse. So there's a little give and take there. The PUD was written with the base zoning of R1, which is the base zoning, which is lucky for us. I think that makes it a lot easier to look at on a map. And then they are proposing 9 outlots. So the first outlot will have a clubhouse here right upon entry off of Nicolay Drive with the stormwater management pond in the rear. 2 of the outlots located here will be trail access connections. There is an existing trail along the eastern corridor here, separating this development from the Durham Road. So this here would have its own mini trail to connect to that main trail system. And then they have these tiny little, I call them pocket green spaces. They're throughout the development. It adds a little bit of greenery, a little bit of open space. They could use it for landscaping, for public art. It doesn't really have a descriptive use for them. They're just open green spaces to add a little bit more variety into that. So for those spaces, we did write into the PUD that they have to fall within the vision triangle requirement, so nothing too tall can be there or too obvious. But important to note that those are there. Also including some mid-block crossings here with those trail access areas. So that's kind of the layout of the entire subdivision. When looking at the PUD exceptions, this follows the R1 zoning code fairly well. There are not that many exceptions to be had here, especially when looking at bulk requirements. So in R1 right now, we require a 75-foot lot width minimum. This would be reduced down to 50 feet. In actuality, most of these lots are somewhere around 60 to 65 feet in width. Some of the ones that are on the curves here, those are where that reduction takes place. The smallest one is probably listed at about 55. We wanted to give some flexibility if this does change at all from now until if there's any changes with the final, especially with any road design. But this could potentially, I think, be increased to about 55. Dina is running the plat approval process after this application, so these are kind of going hand in hand. But with this, there is no change to the lot minimum lot area. So usually we see the reduction in width, you see reduction in size. That's not happening here. The size requirement is 7,500 square feet in R1, and that's staying the same. So still getting the same amount of land, just with a smaller width. We're looking to do a reduction in the side yard setback. It would normally be 6 feet, going down to 5 feet. This gives a little bit more developable space on these lots, but it still maintains a minimum of 10 feet between principal structures, so not much of a give there. Looking at these traffic calming elements, we wanted to write these into the PUD to ensure that these are maintained throughout the development process. We don't normally see us writing these sorts of things into PUDs, but we felt they were so important to the type of neighborhood and community that they're trying to make that we wrote them in. So you see these neighborhoods traffic circles, they're here and here. They're basically like a miniature roundabout, but it's more of a traffic calming feature. So just some green space in the middle of the road that slows traffic down. The mid-block crossings, again, those provide that access to the trail, access easement area that'll go to the trail, and then those pocket green spaces, making sure those are maintained throughout the property as well. The PUD would allow for double fronting lots along Nicolay. We do not allow double fronting lots. We think a lot of double frontages as a negative because we think of the west or East Mason corridor where you just see backs of fences. So the front yard probably looks really good, the back looks like a bunch of fences. So in here, to avoid that, there is a 20-foot landscape buffer requirement along Nicolay Drive, and then the inability to pull a fence permit along Nicolay Drive as well. So that would mean that Nicolay Drive would be maintained as a landscaped area, and this would definitely assure us that that is the rear of the property, not the front of the property, which can be a problem with double fronting lots. So the PUD would make that allowance. In order to maintain some variety in the housing stock, we wanted that we wrote in that there's a minimum of 5 different housing designs, which I'll get to on the next slide. We are allowing parking in front of the clubhouse. So this is an allowed use, one clubhouse with typical amenities that you would find in a clubhouse. That could be pools, workout areas, etc. So they do have this proposed with parking in front, so we're allowing that within the PUD, and I do have that schematic on the next slide. And then also some neighborhood identification signage that would be in the right of way. Again, not something that we usually look at for PUDs, but we feel it's important to the feeling of this development. So where these pink stars are where those signage would be. So this would be more of a monument style coming off of that boulevard off of Nicolay Drive, which would be the main entry. And then pillar style ones off of the entries here. Cannot remember the names of those roads for the life of me. Do you remember?
Baywater and Travertine.
Baywater. I always want to say Bay Beach. That's not right. Baywater and Travertine. The applicant had proposed 4 pillars, one on each side for both of these roads. We are recommending 2, so one at each of those entry points. While that is an entry into this new development area, we want to make sure that it's seen as a community upon itself. There are existing lots here, so we feel 4 may be too many. It seemed a little excessive, but they are still asking for 4. We have it written as 2 right now. So on the following slide, you can see those sign details. This would be the monument one that would go into that main entry off of Nicolay, and then these are the smaller pillar style ones that would go on those other 2 entry points. And this would be for the clubhouse. So again, the parking in front and on the side, clubhouse area, pool area in the back. And again, the stormwater management pond would be in the back there. So it's kind of like that central. You drive in, you go through the boulevard, the clubhouse is the first thing that you see. So writing that parking area into there. And then the minimum of 5 house designs. So these are the ones that were proposed. There can be some flexibility in what these end up looking like, but we do have it written that at least 5 have to be put into the subdivision. I think that's all of the big stuff. We did get some calls and emails from neighbors. So far I have received 1 objection, which was printed and set out for all of you. The main objection point seems to be that there are more lots than anticipated with the reduction of that lot width, that they'll have 5 backyard neighbors instead of 3 backyard neighbors. So in looking at that, because I did have 2 other people request that same information, like how many could probably be here if it was just R1 zoning. So our goal in R1 is 4 to 8 units per acre. Looking at the size of this, again at 50 acres, the minimum desire would be around 200 in every planning world if we got to pick. The proposals at the 146. and they could legally fit 242 units on this area. So this is quite a reduction in how many lots they'd be able to fit. So while it may seem like the reduction in that lot width may allow for more homes, we're actually getting less. So we feel that definitely fits into the neighborhood that exists there, and then, makes that the feeling a little bit more cozy for the new neighbors that will be there with that reduction in the street width, the lot width. That was the only thing that came up. They did have a neighborhood meeting, approximately 50 people attended. There were no objections expressed at that meeting. Letters went out 400 feet to Alder Grant and property owners, and again, I received the one objection that you all received printed in front of you, and then we had 2 requests for more information. So that is that for now. It looks like Alder Grant has her hand raised for the public meeting.
Okay.
I just have a quick question. A resident asked, I know it came up during the public meeting, but there wasn't an answer for it. Does anyone know if there is protected land by the hill between Pebble Beach and Church Road? I think it was brought up last time about an eagle's nest or something over there.
We should remember that question, because this is the public hearing right now, so we'll certainly keep that question in mind.
Yep, that's all I have.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Come and state your name and address at the podium, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
My name is Derek Holmes. I live at 3317 Pebble Beach Court in Green Bay, and I oppose this. I recently moved here from an extreme suburb, well, fairly far away suburb of the Minneapolis area, and over the past 5 years prior to me moving here, there were a substantial increase in the density of housing in a relatively rural area. And I'm not saying that this is rural, but the density of the PUDs that went in our area led to a fairly serious reduction in quality of life and in property values, and specifically with regards to traffic. So I will freely admit that I haven't done as much investigation on this perhaps as I should, and I'd be happy to get any information back, but I honestly don't think that Nicolay can support the traffic that's going to be created out of this development. It's already gotten considerably more busy over the past year, since I moved here anyway, and I'd like to know, have there been any traffic studies done with regards to how this will impact the traffic on Nicolay? In addition, I would like to find out about sewer capacity and whether or not there's enough sewer capacity going down Nicolay Avenue, and whether or not it's going to have to be improved, and if so, what other improvements on Nicolay Avenue are going to be necessary. One other thing that I'm also concerned about are the construction impacts and how that could potentially affect the neighbors when all of this extreme construction equipment is coming through. So I oppose it. I'd like to get more information on it, though. But I honestly think that there needs to be much more study done before this is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Dave Heath, 3382 Church Road, and I oppose it also. Some of the same reasons that gentleman just said. I do not think that the traffic the road will be able to handle the traffic. We already have a major problem on the corner of Scottwood and Nicolay, that intersection right there. It's a cluster when you're trying to get in and out, especially when we have college in session. Any traffic study that we should do should be done once college starts, September 1st. Doesn't pay to do anything right now, okay? So I would like to know, what are you gonna do with Nicolay? Are you gonna continue to have the ditches there? Or are you gonna put curb and gutter there? What is your plan on Nicolay? Again, we are gonna have a lot more traffic in that area, and I just don't, like he said, I don't think it's sort of rural. It's the last big development on the east side of Green Bay. Do we need to go to this plan? There's been a plan on the books for 20-some years. When I built out there, there was an initial plan on there, and we keep going away from it. We go to this plan. The last time we had a plan was condos. They wanted to put 6 condos on Nicolay. You know, so, I mean, it's always something different than all the neighbors were assuming that was gonna happen in there. What do the neighbors that live there right now, what advantage is it for us? We understand there's an advantage for the developer, obviously, more houses, you know, more money they can make. The city, more houses, the more tax they can collect. So there's a couple positives there. You gotta show me and my neighbors what is our advantage, is what I'd like to see.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item?
John Brady, 3337 Pebble Beach. So I'm one of these people that has sort of a pie-shaped lot. My next door neighbor does too. And there's gonna be like 3 neighbors in back of me. And, you know, there's no transition. My main thing is that, you know, I don't want 3 neighbors behind me. I would like 1 neighbor or 1.5 neighbors. And I agree with Dave and Mr. Holmes about the possible traffic effects and things like that. But there's no transition from my area to the development. And also, it was mentioned by the presenter that was presenting the idea about this development. He was stating that these are going to be $400,000 to $800,000 compared to $350,000 of the value of the surrounding houses. Well, I would dispute that. That was from tax records or assessments, and the real market value is not necessarily that, and I feel like that was a misleading statement and line of argument. That's it.
Thank you.
My name is Jason Murrows. I represent Apple Tree, the developer for the project. I live at 2425 East Glenhurst Lane in Appleton. So first, before I forget, I'd like to comment when this item comes up as an action item on the 1 sign versus 2. If I could ask for an open session where I might be allowed to speak then, unless you'd like me to do that now. It's my understanding now is not the time for that. So I do appreciate the Plan Commission's time in reviewing this and staff's recommendation for approval. As far as traffic goes, we did investigate that fairly extensively early on. And this being a Brown County highway, it falls under Brown County Highways Management. So for better or for worse, it's not something this particular commission, as I understand it, needs to vote on or address. But Brown County, there would be responsible for adding traffic features. The response that I got was that if the Nicolay required traffic features, then they would implement those. But they, other than potentially at Scottswood right now, aren't aware of issues. The sewer, our engineer did investigate, found that the sewer there was more than adequate capacity. And there was a question about whether or not there was an endangered species conflict. And so I asked our engineer to run that right away, and we got a letter back indicating that all property within a certain distance of a body of water is typically triggered for an endangered species investigation. And they did run that and found that we had no conflicts with that site. Because after the neighborhood meeting, that was something that I was concerned about. So they found that that was not an issue. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item?
May I make one more point?
We all can speak one time.
All right.
I'm Laura Godwins. I live at 3333 Pebble Beach Court. Just opposed to the property plan, as I feel it'll decrease our property value depending on what they're actually going to implement and put there. Our neighbor, I think 3 or 4 doors down, just sold their house for over $600,000. And we have tons of houses that are worth quite a bit in that area. And so if you're putting in tiny homes near us, like, it is going to decrease our property values. And then I hope, if you guys do this project, that you consider decreasing our property taxes.
House is worth less, right?
Yep.
Point of order. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to speak via Zoom.
Just state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Erin Hoppy. I live at 2865 Durham Road. So my property, my husband and I built in 2003. We always knew that there was going to be a development in the future. However, I oppose this development. I agree with the other reasons that fellow neighbors have given and community members. In addition to the reduced lot size, our backyard would now have, we're on a double lot on Durham, so our backyard has the Waterfowl Conservancy. I don't see any extension of that Waterfowl Conservancy in the new development. There is that green space, the connector space. That is actually the only outlet to the trail, which then leads to Durham Road, which then leads to Red Smith School. Other than students going around on Nicolay, there's no access. So I don't think that that's been thoroughly reviewed and should be. I don't oppose any type of single-family homes going in, but I do oppose this type of density. It is not what we agreed to 22 years ago, and I think as others have spoken, that our viewpoints need to be respected as well as homeowners, that yes, we knew this was coming, but this was not what we were told or what we invested in. And I think that there needs to be some compromise there. I am concerned about the traffic on Nicolay. It's 35, but it is very heavily used, especially during the winter. There's a lot of blowing and drifting. And again, just access, then coming behind my home with students going to school. It's not a blinking crosswalk. It's a painted line with a sign that's not often acknowledged. So I do think there are some additional safety concerns in addition to the values of properties. I know there's a 2,300 square foot home right now for sale for $500,000. So I find some of the numbers that have been floated a little misleading. But again, I hope more information can be provided and we can find some type of compromise that existing neighbors meet our expectations as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item?
Patrick Oggins, 3333 Bevel Beach Court. Outside of what my neighbors have already had mentioned, I'm the lone victim here, I guess. I've got 5 properties abutted to my 1 property, which is a little ridiculous for this development. And I understand, making lots smaller in the zoning densities. There's a fair amount of that buildable area that's consumed by green space because of flooding that occurs every year in that property, and that's well needed. But, having 5 new neighbors behind you is a little ridiculous on a standard city lot, so let's, some type of berm, some type of divider or something for lots that mysteriously have 3, 4, or more neighbors behind them. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 6, consideration with possible action on a request for a planned unit development to permit the development of 146 single-family lot subdivision, including a clubhouse and amenity area at 2892 Nicolay Drive, 2958 Nicolay Drive, and 0 Durham Road, submitted by Jason Mraz of Apple Tree on behalf of Terra Nullius LLC property owner.
Thank you. I'll try to run through some of the questions and comments that were brought up to get some answers. Concerning the protected land on Church Road, I believe that was the discussion about endangered species, so the developer has already gone to that, unless somebody has found something different. I saw Jake furiously typing after he said that, so I don't know if anything else came up. Concerning Nicolay Drive, that is under the jurisdiction of Brown County Highways, and it is classified as a minor arterial, so those are supposed to have a heavy volume of traffic. It does become a collector about a half mile north past Church, but in this entire stretch, that is the minor arterial. So that would obviously be considered with any development going in to make sure traffic can be handled there, but with that minor arterial standard, I can't imagine there would be any improvements needed to that roadway. But again, as this goes through the development process, that's usually flushed out if any sort of a study is needed, but we did not feel it warranted one considering the status of it being a minor arterial street.
I can add to that. I believe that Alder, and she may be able to answer, Alder and the county supervisor have been in discussions about getting the county to do some type of study or maybe a combined study on Nicolay in general. Not just because of this development, but just because all of the development over the last 20 plus years.
Same story sort of for the sewer capacity. This is in our service area, meaning it has the capacity, or else we wouldn't have it in our service area. So if any upgrades were needed, they keep track of that. All utility providers do to make sure that the capacities can be met. But since it's in our service area, it's understood that the capacity is there. This has been noted as a single-family area for our last comprehensive plan was done in 2003. So single family's always kind of been the idea. I know other developers have come forward with different proposals, but as far as city documentation is concerned, we've always had this earmarked for single-family development. The housing study obviously shows a need for more housing units, getting 146 single families online, especially at the higher end of the value. That does kind of free up some of the middle value homes for people of that age or tax bracket to be then purchasing those and then moving up, which is part of what our housing study really talks about, is the variety of housing that we need, so that way people can move into what suits them best. So I'm not sure if there was something else that was part of that plan from 20 years ago that they're referencing, but as far as we are concerned, this has always been earmarked for single family development. And again, this is fairly low density considering that this could go up to 8 units per acre. It's not even meeting the 4, which is our minimum threshold generally speaking. So the 2.9 is pretty low in comparison. In talking about those backyard transition areas, let me blow this up a little bit.
Yeah, I'd like to see Pebble Beach Court.
Oops, I'm moving that. Oopsie. Yeah, so right here, this is Pebble Beach Court. So in discussion, when they were saying that they're having more neighbors than they anticipated, it's these rear yards here, especially these ones that are at the angle at that corner. That does have quite a large rear lot line for both of these, so then you can see how these line up and you're getting multiple neighbors against that one. I don't know if there has been further discussion if any sort of required landscaping would be put in here. We don't generally do that when it's the same type of use though. Usually the buffering is to buffer a more intense use from a less intense use. This is the same type of use. So generally speaking, people are allowed to put landscaped areas, fences, whatever they would like in their backyard to, add any sort of protection that they would like between neighbors. But we wouldn't generally add something like that into a PUD for the same type of use. So something to consider if you would like, and this is what they're talking about, is this area here. We did see a little bit of that also on the Durham side here. So this is Durham Road, and then these are the lots along Durham that then have these as the rear yard neighbors. So those would be the two areas that were discussed from the neighbors here. Concerning the decrease in property values, I feel like we hear this a lot. These are proposed houses between $400,000 and $800,000. We don't really see any decrease in value happening with a development like this, especially when we have the standards for the materials and the type of housing that would be required here. This is an HOA covered area, so there's, additional level of protection when it comes to maintenance and the look of the properties. So we don't see anything like that. And of course, Plan Commission doesn't deal with decreasing property taxes, so we wouldn't have anything to say there. I'm sure that the applicant can provide more context for the types of housing that they're going to put in, but just as a reminder, we do have this as a requirement within here. So looking at the sizes, it goes between 1691 square feet and 2648, between 1 to 4 bedrooms as options, 2 to 3 baths, sunrooms, 2-car garages. So that's the type of development that they're looking to propose here. And then the Waterfall Conservancy, I think that the applicant wants to speak to that unless Dave knows anything about it, because I don't know of any conservancy area that we have here. This is the trail area here that we were discussing, and then the trail access from the PUD area. So along Durham Road, that's where she said there was a Waterfall Conservancy. I'm not sure what that's for.
I'm not sure about the Waterfall Conservancy, but I can tell you about the area where the trail goes through right now. It does connect Church to Durham, and yes, it was meant to continue to connect neighborhoods to the Red Smith area. That's intentional, and we want them to connect with those trails. So I'm not sure if, I don't remember what the question was with that.
The Waterfall Conservancy, I haven't heard that before.
Eagle's Nest. Did they say Eagle's Nest?
Yeah, there is nothing identifiable on any of our records that there's a conservancy in there. There is something on private land. Could be something with that sale, but there's nothing in the land record showing any kind of conservancy, except for where that stormwater goes, if that's what she's.
Yeah, they could be talking about with the zoning of Sonar Pond. It's park space.
That would be my guess too.
Yeah, I think it's like, it must be that green space in between the Durham Road subdivision and this one.
And that's all in the floodplain anyway, so it's non-developable land.
So I think anything that hasn't been, I think we addressed all the comments, but again, the applicant Jason can speak to any other questions that have come up. We are recommending approval of the request subject to the draft PUD and the following condition. The PUD ordinance shall not take effect until the pre-final subdivision plat CP 2505 for Nicolay Heights is approved by the city. We don't generally do these in conjunction with one another, but the ownership parties would like assurance that one doesn't happen without the other. So that the plat and the PUD are going forward together.
So now, you talked about the double frontage on Nicolay with those houses, because those houses don't face Nicolay, they face into the subdivision.
Yes.
So there's that big ditch in there now. Is that ditch going to stay, like, because somebody did ask about curb and gutter, and I'm assuming they're not putting in there because it's not going to be fronting there.
Yeah, the ditch is in the right of way, so that's conveying stormwater right now. If the county, or the county and the city are decided to improve that road, it's county controlled right now.
Okay.
So we couldn't change it if we wanted to. But if they wanted to urbanize it with curb and gutter, that would be a county decision.
Okay. So as far as we're aware, that the stormwater dip is going to stay there.
Well, Alder Grant, she does have her hand up because David had asked her about it, so she's wanting to answer.
Thank you, Alder. Yes, I have reached out to the county. They are fully aware. I specifically did ask them to look at the intersection of Scottwood and Nicolay because of the other developments going up as well. I have not heard, or they said that they are overwhelmed right now with stuff, but they are, again, fully aware. I would stress residents to reach out to Supervisor Antono to follow up on, inquiring on that as well. But one thing I do want to point out, and the developer I'm sure can elaborate on this, I remember during the neighborhood meeting, he did mention that these HOAs tend to attract older age group, which is nice for traffic, because if they're retired, they're not leaving for work and school every day. So I don't know if there's necessarily a major concern with this development opposed to the other one that was just approved, but I do know with both of them coming in front of us, they are aware of it. Another thing too, Nicolay does have a speeding issue, and typically when Nicolay is busy in the morning and in the evening, I do see that traffic does slow down. When cars are trying to pull out and people are turning, it slows it down a little bit. So I understand that traffic can be kind of a scary thought, but in the long run, it actually does kind of take care of the speeding issue. I've seen even when UWGB is getting out, there's a line getting out, people are slowing down and are more aware. I guess I would just ask if I don't know if the developer's gonna speak again, but I don't know if he would consider any landscaping behind Pebble Beach to address any of those concerns. But I do understand that the housing is similar to, as far as single family, it's consistent, so I kind of agree that requiring a berm, I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm just curious if the developer has entertained any landscaping ideas.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So you said in an ideal world, they wouldn't have to come before us at all and they could get 242 single family.
If the lots
If
were
they could, you
combined
know,
and developed
right.
in, under R1, yes, they could approximately.
With the retention pond on
Okay,
that side?
point of order.
But density's 2.9, we're half, less than half.
Right. Our density is 2.9, but ideally you want 4?
It's between 4 and 8 in the R1, yes. So this is
A
some
lot
of the
less
lower
dense than
density
what-
that we're probably gonna ever approve, which we feel is a good trade-off because of the green spaces in the priority that they're placing on the connection to that trail system and throughout this development. Dina will probably touch on this in her point, but our official map had some of these as like cul-de-sac areas, which obviously really separate neighborhoods. They don't make for great neighborhood connections. So this road layout was really done intentionally. The connection to the trail was done intentionally. Having a clubhouse, so it does feel like more of a community, was done intentionally. So while we personally would probably like to see more density here, the trade-off is that they're being very intentional about the community building and the green connections, which we feel are really important for this area of town.
I think one thing that's important to mention, and I think you did stuff, but I'll mention it again anyway, is that the lots are slightly narrower than the code would require, but they're deeper. So there is no smaller lot sizes. These are
The
running
smallest is
about
like
twice what.
8,100.
Yeah, so they're larger or up to twice what the code would require, as far as lot sizes.
Did we have questions of the applicant?
I believe you wanted the floor to discuss the signage.
Right. The signage, and then we had questions about the landscaping. I entertain a motion to open the floor for the applicant.
Motion to open the floor to address the applicant. Second.
Alright, motion by Vice Chair Miller, second by Commissioner Ravinsky. All those in favor? Alright. If you could come to the podium, please. So you had questioned, you were talking about the signs, the 2 versus 4, and then there were some questions about the landscaping too on Pebble Beach that the Alder had asked.
Yes, so I'd like to, if I could make a case for the 2 columns at Baywater and 2 coming in on Travertine. The columns are fairly small, 30 inches square by 4.5 feet tall. The diagram has it, I don't recall what the exact height is on the.
This is 4 feet.
You called them pillared, Stephanie, so we'll go with that, the pillar signs. But you can see the sign face that's etched itself is very small, maybe 2 feet by a foot at most, so it's fairly small. Those will be etched. And if this is a transition from one traditional single family where there's multiple builders to another traditional single family where there's multiple builders, I would actually agree with the staff recommendation to reduce the 2 columns, 1 on each side, to 1. in this case, it's identifying, hey, you're about to enter what will look and feel, for all intents and purposes, like a condo community, because the homes are all similarly styled and so forth. They're all part of an association where the lawns are all communally maintained and so forth. I feel like that's appropriate. We've done this on other locations. In De Pere, we did a project called Woods Edge, and we did those same columns as you come in. And columns are pretty typical in pairs as you come in, one on each side of the road, just to let you know, hey, you're entering this new community. And so that's why I'd respectfully request that our request that was for one on each side of the street to be approved. Again, they're fairly small, they're not obtrusive. There'll be cast stone around them with caps and so forth, like the drawing. Any questions about that?
Sorry, the recommendation is one instead
One
of
at
two?
each location. One at each.
Okay.
So, yeah, having one on either side of the street versus just one on one side.
Which I think would look unusual. Just from my perspective, having typically seen them in pairs as you enter, so I respectfully feel like it would look a little odd.
Are those notched out of the lots right there?
It would be in the right-of-way.
Oh, it'd be in the right, okay.
These are approved for right-of-way. So that would be section I, B, and C. Section I, subsection B and C.
Got it.
And then I don't know.
I'm sorry, can we revisit that again? So with the one pillar, it would be in the right of way versus anchoring the street with the two versus the two?
Both would be, no matter how we have it right now, is that the signage would be allowed in the right-of-way. One versus two pillar at location doesn't matter. So these would be allowed improvements in the right-of-way.
I think, Darius, the big difference is whether you would have a sign on one side of the street or have it anchored on both sides.
And they would be landscaped.
Thank you.
What's the staff preference for one?
So one was really, we had just felt two would be, if this was the end of like at an intersection, would make more sense, but because there's a couple homes leading up into that, we just felt that it would be kind of large. The zoning code allows, or a lot, the zoning code allows one neighborhood identification sign, so in this case, we would have them at each entryway. A little bit different because it is an HOA and it is a different kind of community. We had just believed that it might be excessive to have one. Well, two on each street. Yeah. Not something we would die in the vine over, or pick up one.
Not planting the flag on it?
Right.
Okay.
With the one probably facing the traffic, inbound traffic.
Correct.
On the right side would be, I think, if there was only one allowed.
And the other one would be the outbound. Would they both be inbound?
Yes.
You both be inbound,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
that would look
Now
better.
leaving.
Because you're leaving right, see you later.
But it is an aesthetic thing as well. I mean, if you feel it is more balanced with one on both sides, that is a factor.
I really would like to see a picture of that one in De Pere that you did, just to kind of get a better feel for it. Yes, you look at Darius, it's starting to your mouth.
That's exactly right.
Stephanie, could you bring up the drawing? Yeah,
Right.
You can kind of picture those little columns, one on each side of the road. If you take the Nicolay Heights monument sign, that would be in Eagle Boulevard, centrally located as you're coming in. If you take that out, then it'll be the street going in between there.
Right.
It's kind of identifying off to each side.
I get your point that it's kind of coming in from other houses. It's not like it's at a T intersection and you've got these pillars. It's like there's a house and then there's going to be some pillars and another house.
It's the same situation in De Pere,
Is
where we
it?
extended a existing street of nice custom homes, and then that dead ended, and it had been dead ended for years. And then we just extended that street, but just to identify that, hey, this is you're about to enter a different subdivision, HOA community. And I could provide the photos, I just can't do it right now.
Is that? Oh, you did find it.
Yeah, Google Earth.
I don't, I personally liked it too.
Totally up to you guys.
I think it feels more balanced to me. I genuinely have no opinion. Yeah, I mean, whatever people feel best about.
From the city standpoint, I mean, it's just more cost than the developer, really.
Right.
So it's really his choice.
Right. I mean, they're not overly big. I mean, you're talking about 4 feet, so we're like, here.
Sorry, it's 5 feet tall.
5, oh, I see that 5
So
foot.
it's like
Okay,
this
so it's,
tall.
it's like here. Wait,
one
8,
step.
right here.
It's one step
Right.
tall.
Okay, landscaping?
And there would have been landscaping around it too. I mean, can we?
No,
could-
I'm saying moving on to.
Oh, you're moving on,
Yeah,
all right.
I don't care.
Oh, and then, yeah, the Alder had asked about that, although I'm not sure that it's necessary.
We've never.
It's single family to
We've never
single
buffered
family.
between single.
Right.
I think what the Alder just thought, maybe the developer would like to comment, maybe it's something he's interested in doing anyway. So.
Would you like to comment?
Well, I'd like to, there was a couple other points that were made.
Sure.
And David fortunately really hit on one. The lots are over a quarter of an acre. I think that's a really important point. So we're asking for reduced width up front, but the density is not high, which has been brought up numerous times. And staff has commented how they feel like that's a good blend. And we have reduced the density of the subdivision by, I think it was 6 or 7 lots to create the green spaces, to make the trail connection and so forth. So we understand staff, you only get so much land in the city limits, right? You want to kind of maximize that. We wanted to bring a really nice project, so we actually trimmed out several lots to create community green space. And then we added those traffic features, which were, the mini roundabouts, which I never realized how much they add to the community feel until I started paying attention to that. And when you see them in and landscaped, they're expensive, but we're going to put them in. We really wanted this to kind of set the standard and be a very warm and inviting community. So we did a number of things to do that. Based on property home sales over the last 2 years and our current projects in Appleton and Bellevue, I'm very comfortable saying that I don't see any reason why the homes here wouldn't average between 550 and 575,000. I feel like that compares fairly favorably with the surrounding homes. There will be some homes in this community that will be 8 and probably even 900,000. So we sell some in the 800 range now on this particular site with some of the views that will be there. I would be surprised if there aren't some in the 900,000 range. So that was the extent of the comments that I had. Was there any?
I got a question. So this has been identified as an HOA?
So, best way I can describe this is that after the Great Recession of 2008, lenders said, oh, never again. So they said, with regard to condo financing, you have to be 75% sold through before we'll loan, in the community, before we'll provide a loan to a buyer in the condo association. Well, catch chicken and egg, how do you get to 75% if anybody who needs a mortgage can't get financed till you're 75%? So a workaround that prior condo developers like ourselves had gone to was to doing single-family homes in an HOA. And we feel like that's kind of the best of both worlds. People own their own home, they own the lot, but there's a HOA to make sure that your neighbor doesn't let their grass get to 5 feet tall, doesn't park a boat with an orange tarp over it, that sort of thing.
Okay, well, the reason I ask is that for sure, or are you just saying that's an option?
Is what for sure?
HOA.
Oh, it's for sure.
Okay, and the reason I say that, because building homes like this as an HOA pretty much guarantees the upkeep of the property.
We've been doing this for 6 years,
Okay.
and I think sold 400 of them in the last 6 years,
Right.
350.
So you have means within the HOA, if someone isn't holding the bar, you will go visit them and they'll be told to, or are you gonna leave that to the city?
It's all taken care of.
Yeah, there's a property manager for that.
Okay, I
Enforcement
just
of the
wanna be
rules.
sure that I'm thinking HOA correctly.
Well, we take it a step further than the standard HOA, which HOAs can be as little as just maintaining a sign for the community or a pond, or they can be full-blown, essentially condo associations
Right.
under the name of an HOA. We're much closer to the condo than we are with the
Okay.
sign pond. So lawn care, snow removal, and restrictive covenants are all in place, very tight.
Okay.
Restrictive
So very
covenants.
tight. So we're not talking about individuals buying their own home and doing their own thing.
No, and if you drive through any of our communities existing, Woods Edge in De Pere is a good example, the Preserve on the east side of Green Bay, that was the last project we did here in the city.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to understand that. Thank you.
Any other questions for me?
No, thank you so much.
Motion to close the floor?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Fullwilder, second by Commissioner Ravinsky to close the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Right.
All right.
I had my hand up.
The floor is closed at this time.
Why did he get to speak?
He's the developer, we open the floor to the developer.
But then he went on to explain other
But we
parts
ask
of it.
questions of the developer, sir. The floor is closed at this time.
To be honest, this looks like a really beautiful development. I don't really know what else to say. Like, the homes look nice. I don't see a huge difference in the lot sizes. Looking through, everything's pretty much over 60 for a frontage, which isn't dramatically different. I mean, if you compare it to the existing neighborhoods in much of Green Bay, the widths of the lots are not 72 feet.
I was just gonna say, I'm very impressed by the lot sizes, quite honestly. I mean, this could be something that I could see myself navigating and moving if I desired to move out of downtown, which I don't. But I could definitely see myself moving to this neighborhood just because of the lot sizes and the community feel. Despise our HOA, but I understand how that is needed, and it definitely elevates the community. I've been a part of an HOA before, and they definitely take care of the homes. And I will say it invites a different level of buyer when you do have an HOA, because it is an additional expense on top of your mortgage and things of that nature. So I love the layout of the community. I'm not too far from there, but I do love the layout of the community, and it looks very well designed thus far. So if there are no other questions or issues, I will, I see Lisa, Commissioner, Madam Chair looking at me. I will entertain a motion to, I will approve.
All right, motion approved with their exceptions and
With the, yes, from staff, with the
conditions that staff agreed.
What about signage?
Oh, that's right. Signage as far as the 2 versus 4. I guess we didn't have a
Motion
discussion
to
about that.
approve with the conditions from staff and 2 signage pillars per entrance.
I'll second that.
The 2 secondary entrances, to be clear, not the main entrance off Nicolay.
Right, Travis.
Correct, the secondary entrance is not the main one from their clubhouse, correct.
All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Daniels and a second by Commissioner Fullwilder. Do we have any further discussion or questions for staff?
Sorry, I did have one more thing. I think you can probably answer this. So the green spaces, including the trail feeder, are owned by the HOA?
The trail access ones, the outlots 2 and 3 that have the trail in the middle,
Mhm.
that portion would be dedicated to the city as a trail connection.
Okay, so it'd be city-owned park
Yes,
land.
and then outside of that, there's 15 feet on both sides, that's HOA owned and run.
Okay.
So basically, it's 30, wait, how do I do math? Is that right? No, 60 feet wide.
Yep.
Half of that is HOA, half of that is city.
Okay, same question for the other parklets and green space. Would those also be city-controlled?
Not ours.
Not ours. Okay, so.
And so
is that
those ones
trail-
are regulated within the PUD to say you can't, you have to meet Vision Triangle, you know, those aren't, they're outlaws, there's not allowed uses on part of those, there's just open green space.
Okay, but not owned by the homeowner next door to them. They're owned
Nope.
by the HOA or controlling body, whatever. And
It's
then-
not specified, it's not spelled out like that, but it said that that's like an allowed use. So we don't determine who owns those necessarily. The only time the HOA comes into play is along those trail access easement areas.
And whatever other maintenance that they do. Okay, okay, understood, thank you.
Okay, so we still have the motion by Commissioner Daniels, second by Commissioner Fullwilder. Anything else? Go ahead with a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And then that will move forward into City Council for August 5th. Moving on to the next item, item number 7. Consideration with possible action on request to create a preliminary plat with 146 lots and 9 outlots, Nicolay Heights, that includes public dedications at 2892 Nicolay Drive, 2958 Nicolay Drive, and 0 Durham Road, submitted by Jason Mraz of Apple Tree on behalf of Terra Nullius LLC property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So to not make it sound like deja vu, but to make it sound like deja vu, this is the piggyback off of the previous item. So this is actually for the plat. And as Steph had previously mentioned, the future land use is low-density residential. Everything around it, with the exception of some park area, is zoned for R1 low-density residential. And then here's the overview of the plat itself. So we're looking at both a little over 50 acres, 146 lots with 9 outlots. Outlot 1 is going to be the clubhouse stormwater pond. Just a minor note is that as part of our review, we are requesting that to actually become a lot, since it's going to have construction on it of a building. Normally outlots are vacant space, like the pond would be a great outlot, or the park space is a great outlot. So we're just going to want to see that renamed on future plats for the pre-final to become another lot. And then what was talked about prior to this with outlots 2 and 3, those are going to be dedicated to the public for trail purposes. Outlots 4 through 9 would be owned by the HOA. And then the ones that do buffer that trail, that's exactly what the developer wants it to do, is to create a buffer so those homes that are adjacent to the trails have a little extra green space. And the development does include over 6,600 lineal feet of street. And so when we were kind of looking at those density, like what could potentially go there, we did include some road widths, I believe, in that number. So this is a map. On the left, we've got the preliminary plat, and then on the right is the official map. It's really hard to see. I don't know how well it shows up, but you can kind of see the green outlines of roads that are on our official map. And what that does is it prevents development from occurring where those roads are shown on the official maps, to keep them open. You can see that there is some slight differences, but generally they do follow very similar patterns. So when these roads do get dedicated, those will be the roads, and then the official map roads will go away. The Nicolay Drive, if you look on the official map, is really pretty far south on the official map, pretty close to Pebble Beach Court. So now they've moved up the entrance further north on Nicolay, so there's going to be a lot more separation between those two access points. But the reason why we're bringing this to the Plan Commission tonight is because of the dedications that are involved in the plat regarding the roads and the park space. So staff is recommending approval of the preliminary plat with 2 conditions. The Nicolay Heights preliminary plat review comments from July 18th, 2025 shall be addressed on the Nicolay Heights pre-final plat. And these are the comments that when staff sends it out to multiple agencies to review, these are the comments that they come back with. Just so like the public is aware, we send it to Wisconsin Public Service to see if they have any comments regarding utility feasibility out there. We send it to New Water, which is the sewer district. We also send it to Brown County. So it is a pretty collaborative review. And then also approval of ZO 14-25, which is the plan unit development that was just before you, is approved by City Council. Again, getting back to that comment about having them go together at the same time.
The only thing I would add is that entrance from the official map did get moved to the north at the county's requirement. So they wanted it further separated from the existing intersections, they wanted it centralized in between Church and Pebble Beach.
Because the new plat has a little bit, the streets where there was a cul-de-sac before, and now that street goes through and cuts over.
There were 2 or 3 cul-de-sacs.
Couple of them, yeah, we got rid of those, okay.
Again, when the official maps are put in place, it's really placeholders, just
Right.
to know there's streets going
There's going to be at some
somewhere.
point.
And anybody to develop that area would have
That can be
to
discussed.
avoid the street or move it.
Right,
move the
figure out
official
what
maps.
appropriate way to
Correct.
use it, right.
Motion to approve as recommended. Second.
A motion by Commissioner Ravinsky and a second by Vice Chair Miller. Any further discussion amongst the commission? All right. We'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, and then that will move forward to City Council as well for August 5th. Moving on to item number 8. Consideration with possible action on a request to discontinue a 12-foot utility easement at the 1300 block Guns Road, 0 Vernon Taylor Drive, and 0 Grand Boulevard, submitted by the City of Green Bay Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Department on behalf of Redevelopment Authority of the City of Green Bay property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is in regards, if you're familiar with the JBS project that's happening on the east side near Walmart and behind the Croc Center. So there were some easements that were dedicated back in, I believe it was 2007. This is that document, CSM 7758, that created those easements. So you can see how it goes along the entire edge of that CSM at that time. Now, there are 2 lots on here, Lot 1, which would be the Croc Center parcel, and then Lot 2, which would be the JBS parcel, which is on the east side. So basically what this request is, it's going to eliminate those. You can go to the next slide, I guess, Steph. We're going to eliminate some of the easements. So this CSM was done last year, a CSM 9773, and the it had, you can see a lot of easements identified on it, between the yellow and the pink. So the yellow easements are the new ones that got dedicated as part of that CSM. But it also showed the old utility easements. Well, now we want to discontinue those that are highlighted in pink. So if you go to the next slide, we do send out a form to different agencies to get their feedback on utility easement discontinuances. And one of those is WPS, and WPS stated that they did want to see the 12-foot utility easement along Guns remain because they do have utility poles in that area. And in talking to Grafe about it, they saw no issues with those, with that easement remaining. So our recommendation is to approve the request with the condition that the 12-foot utility easement remain along Guns Road.
All right,
So
thank you.
not a very exciting, you know,
Right.
we're getting rid of the
I feel like it's pretty fast. I'm just saying. I entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second. Motion by Vice Chair Miller, second by Commissioner Ravinsky. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. I'll go for City Council for August 5th. Moving on to item number 9. Consideration with possible action on a request to discontinue a 40-foot sanitary sewer easement at the 1300 block Guns Road and 0 Vernon Taylor Drive, submitted by the City of Green Bay Parks, Recreation and Forestry Department on behalf of the Redevelopment Authority of the City of Green Bay property owner.
Thank you. So this is basically a repeat of the previous item. We have a trend tonight. This is a 40-foot sanitary sewer easement that's located on the south edge of the parcel. There is no sewer in this easement. So with and that's just the original, again, getting back to CSM 7758, that identifies that easement on there. So if you want to go to the next slide, we want to discontinue that easement. This is what was shown on CSM 9773. So we want to discontinue that whole sanitary sewer easement because we are no longer going to have an easement for sanitary sewer because it's all going in the roads now. So no easement is necessary. There are no utilities located in that easement. So we're recommending approval of the request.
Is there a preliminary plan for the sewers going on the roads yet?
What was that for where, I haven't seen anything come as far as a plat or anything, but there could be something in the works that the city is working on, I don't know about.
Sure, all those larger lots were all done as CSM, and those roads were dedicated at that time. Those are built, there is no easements needed when you're in the right of way.
Okay.
So right away, you can do whatever you want in there.
So
It's when it's outside.
We're assuming the engineering will have no issue with
Yeah, the roads have already been all engineered, and they're actually being built out there right now, so.
Don't they have sewers underneath them? or-
They do.
So that has been designed?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And being built.
Okay.
Actually, I think the sewers are all built already. I think they're doing the road now.
Okay, so that's all been looked at. I just wanted to make
Oh.
sure. Okay.
This was
No
sort of
problem.
a leftover piece from when there
Okay.
was no roads.
Gotcha.
Sorry, Jen.
Good. I move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alder Hutchinson, second by Commissioner Ravinsky. Any further discussion? We'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And moving forward to City Council for the 5th. Moving on to item number 10, consideration with possible action on a request to accept new storm sewer easements for parcels 23-243-1 and 23-243-1-3, submitted by the City of Green Bay Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Department on behalf of the Redevelopment Authority of the City of Green Bay property owner.
Guess what? Same location. We are running these as a planning project. We have never done that before because we don't normally accept easements just as their own. They're almost always done during land division or as a DPW project. So, new experience for all of us. We're gonna make a whole new category on our application. So this is again, just more cleanup as you was talking about for our JDS sites. The CSM created 4 parcels. This impacts 2 parcels that are highlighted here in blue. And then showing the storm sewer easements that are going to be added as part of this development. So normally we don't see easement acceptance like this, but we're allowed to do it, so we're gonna do it, so city council can approve it.
Great.
That's
Really,
the whole thing.
The big thing is the vehicle to get it to council to accept it or
Yes.
not. So that can go through INS, it can go through, like Stefan said, it usually goes through a planning process or a CSM process, which the council has allowed staff to manage. So, yeah. I don't know if you'll see many more of these. You never know.
Move to approve.
Okay. Motion by Vice Chair Miller, second by Commissioner Rubinski. Any further discussion? All right, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, now we'll go to City Council for August 5th. Moving on to informational. Director's reports.
As you all received our latest and greatest update, I was out of the office last week, but I understand there was a, I don't know if it was a press conference, a sledgehammer, grand opening of sorts of a building. If you're better, sheet metal building, which I think will be coming down relatively quickly. To make my way for a new development. Does anybody have any questions?
Can I get the waves on that building? Can they just take those, break those off? That little building on the corner, that badger sheet metal, I thought that was beautiful. I just want those, can you just knock those into the sticker?
Just leave them on the sidewalk and you'll come by there.
I'm just helping with cleanup.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, stop by and talk to the demo.
We are looking to try to preserve, there's a large stone with the name of the building in the facade. We're trying to preserve that actually because there's an interesting story with that. That's the name of the original developer who was a former firefighter. And because this is going to be a fire station and it's a full piece
There's a
of
story.
their site, yes, there's a story there. So if at all possible, we'll try to keep it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. No more questions about development? All right. The date of the next meeting is August 11th, 2025.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Rubinski, second by Commissioner Fullwilder to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night.
That was because